looks like I need to water a little bit more before I get started. But hi guys, welcome back. I brought out all of my cooler weather crops today to start hardening off a little bit. I'm going to be planting out my onions roughly in a week and a half or so. I would typically be planting these out in a handful of days, but our weather's been a little bit cooler and we've just started to warm up a little bit. I was actually telling my husband earlier, I feel like our garlic is a little bit behind compared to last year, because last year was such a warm end of winter and we had a very cold February and we just started to warm up. Yeah, these are starting to harden off. I've already brought them outside once, and then I have strawberries, then my broccoli, my lettuce, my cabbage, my spinach, those things. Those won't be planted out until roughly like mid to end of March, but since it's a beautiful day with barely any wind, I brought everything out because this is the perfect day to get these plants some sunshine. I do need to water some of my lettuce and broccoli a little bit more, but I love bringing plants out on a nice day, even if it isn't necessarily planting time quite yet, because this will typically dry out their soil a little bit. It hardens them off a little bit. They're a little bit more adapted to sunlight, a little bit of a breeze, things like that. So I really like to do this, and I'm really excited that we are starting this process today. While I'm out here today, I am actually planting a few things in the garden. I'm planting mostly just my poppies. I have some poppies here that I need to get planted. I have some sugar snap peas I could go ahead and get planted, and then we are going to jump downstairs and I'm actually going to start my snapdragons today as well. As far as like things seed starting wise go, we are going to be doing a bunch of seed starting here in the upcoming weeks. We have tomatoes in a few weeks. We have a bunch of our flowers toward the end of March, and it is truly feeling like gardening season over here, which makes me really excited. Before I get started on the poppies though, I do want to explain a little bit more of what I'm thinking for the onions this year, because last year I had a lot of issues with wind, and I'm thinking I have a pretty good idea on potentially how to move forward this year and protect them a little bit from our extreme wind gusts that we get. But let me water this broccoli and lettuce real quick before I forget. That is one thing, if you are hardening off your seedlings, make sure you are watering them, because the sun will dry out that soil a lot faster, and these guys are really tender and have very shallow roots, so it's really important. One thing you'll probably hear me repeat a lot over the upcoming weeks is my frost dates. So my last average frost is right around mid-April. I typically plant any frost tender things out that first week of May though, just as precaution. I have had cooler springs, and with us having a cooler winter this year, I'm really just holding back a little bit more. I really feel like though, now that we got warmer this week, I feel 100% just ready and excited to bring on the gardening season. For a second there, it was really hard for me to like really jump into it, but I am very, very excited that spring is here and it's warm. I really feel like the end of winter there really made me appreciate spring that much more, because that was a really cold February. But that's the thing, I will be planting a lot of different things before my last average frost date. In March alone, I'll be planting out all of my strawberries, my onions, my broccoli, kale, cabbage, lettuce. We already have garlic in the ground. I will be planting carrots before my last average frost. You can plant regular potatoes before your last average frost. Peas. There's a few other things. I actually might sow out some sunflowers just to see if I can get them to germinate early, because I have had a few volunteers go really early like that, and I'm like, I could sow my own volunteers. I have not tested my little idea for the onions yet, so I'm gonna kind of set up what I'm thinking as I explain it. I have these metal hoops here that we bent with a hoop bender. I will link it, very handy, especially if you want to build your own little low tunnel. But I'm thinking I'm going to place these in the garden beds, and then I have some plastic, some solar plastic at the moment I can break out and kind of test, but I have these clips from Bootstrap Farmer that clip onto these metal rods, and I'm thinking I can build kind of a wind barrier with my solar plastic and these hoops. And I think the hoops would be a good size, and it looks like I need to move my bird bath. We gotta get the bird bath in working order again. I got 5 of these hoops, so I'm hoping I can get both of these garden beds and do 2 garden beds of onions this year. So what I'm thinking is I will have solar plastic folded up in half on each side to where it's really only going up to about right here, and that would block the wind. But then when it comes to curing, this is when I ran into the problem last year. A lot of my onions started to die back, and we had a really wet spring into early summer, and that was not good for the onions. So if I have to, I'm thinking I could also cover them and keep them dry during that last like few week period if I really need to. Whew. Those clips are tight. They are not going anywhere. Yeah, I think that will really work. I just wanted to kind of test things out today to see exactly what I might need to get. I really just don't want the greens to just break and go crazy again, because with having the wet spring, I think that's what caused me having issues when they were curing, because they were curing just fine and then they weren't. That was a whole saga last year. If you have not seen what happened to onions last year, they ended up molding in the curing process, and I really think that ended up being caused by all the breakage they had while they were still in the ground, and also having a very wet end of spring, early summer while those greens broke. So I'm hoping to do that to be able to block the wind, so hopefully the greens can not break as much. I've been successful with growing onions and curing them, having them in my basement for a 6-month period. And last year at the end of, I think it was like 3.5, 4 weeks of them curing in my garage and about to put them in the basement, they were all molded out. And the more research I did about that, it can just be fungal problems with the soil and things getting wet and exposed. And again, I'm hoping that creating a little bit of a barrier like that might help. And then again, if I need to cover them, if rain's coming and they're toward that end of their bulbing process, I can do it. I'm thinking this is a good plan. Let me know what you think. Honestly, I haven't thought of anything better, so we'll see. Needless to say, I was very disappointed because they were the best onions I've ever grown. And I mean, I used them up until that 4-week mark. I was pulling them out of the garage, using them just fine. And then that week 4, they were just, oh, so sad. I don't even want to get into it. I was a little hesitant on really wanting to grow that many onions this year, but onions are a main crop for me and I love growing them. They're also something I use in my kitchen all the time. So I'm hoping this year it won't be a disappointment like last year. I'm also thinking I might approach curing slightly different. If you cure onions, let me know your process. I know that there's a lot of people who will keep them out in the sun for that first day to help dry them out. And that's something I've actually never done. I've just always hauled them to my garage. But I'll link these clips for you guys. These would have been so handy last year because I have used these metal hoops in the past. And typically I was just tying my insect netting and clipping it in certain ways on here. But these clips are made for this size of metal. I got this metal at, I think, Home Depot, and we bent them ourselves. I will link the hoop bender and these clips down below for you guys if you are interested in this little setup idea I have. So like I said in the beginning, I am noticing the garlic start to grow just a little bit more than it was. I will probably start fertilizing this next week if I keep seeing some growth being put on. So I'm going to be planting 2 different things of poppies today. I have this Hungarian blue poppy, and then I also have this pepper box poppy. So these are both bread seeds. So there are culinary poppies and there's ornamental poppies, and these are the ones that you save for your seed for when you are baking and stuff. And this was probably one of my favorite new things I did last year. I did some, and I was able to grow enough poppies only for 2 lemon poppy seed lobes, and I kind of want more than that. So I'm thinking I might sprinkle some of these over near my one elderberry plant and perennial area, and maybe find a few pockets for these poppies. I'm just going to brush off some of the leaves and other straw I currently have down here to expose the soil. And then I'm going to sprinkle them in. They don't need to be too deep. They actually do a little better when they see a little bit of light. So I'm just going to rake them in. Wow. There is earthworms already right on top. I'm just going to sprinkle. And then once they start popping up and we stay warm, I'll thin them out to roughly 6 inches apart. All right, and I'm just gonna slightly rake them in. I'm gonna keep all of this mulch just kind of pressed back as well. And then I'm gonna lightly remulch them. We do have some rain coming as well next week, so that will be really good. Lightly mulch. One of the things I'm really excited about this year is I have some bearded iris that I planted out, I want to say it was June or July last year. And I've never seen this stuff bloom. It should bloom this spring. I do see it looks like it's putting on some growth, but this stuff will spread. I've never had any irises before. I was gifted those irises, so I'm super excited about that. Okay. I'll get the watering can. Looks like there's a little hole in the actual hose. And then down here at the end of my trellis, I'm going to plant some sugar snap peas. And I'm just gonna go between the two T-posts. And for any reason, none of this goes according to plan, I have more seeds I can plant. And it's not the end of the world. I'm gonna mulch this right here a little bit decently. Again, this just helps retain moisture. Helps you water less, better germination. Excuse me. Are you girls ready to go in? Come on. This always reminds me of feeding the ducks when I was little. Now that the days are getting longer, they have picked up in laying eggs the last handful of days. So I'm hoping we get more than one today. There's one. We only got one. We've been getting 2 each day. I definitely didn't need the basket for 1 egg. I really don't need it for 2 either, but you know, a girl can hope for 3. And I also don't like putting them in my pockets. No way. That's cool. Looks like a garlic clove got into the crack of my cement right here, and it is totally sprouting. There's 2 of them actually. I don't think anything's gonna come from that, but that just goes to the testament that plants want to grow. This had 0 soil and not covered all winter long. Now that it's been a few hours, I'm gonna go ahead and bring the plants inside since this is like most of their first days out. I don't want them getting any type of sunburn. Also, I got a few more planters at an auction earlier today, which I'm really excited about. I have my big planters from the fall that I still need to fill up. I have these ones. One of my favorite things is to find planters, and I've been able to get a few really nice ceramic and cement planters that are really heavy duty for very cheap. My really big ones, I think we got for like $30. They were insane. But I'm gonna get these plants in. I'm gonna let the cats out for a few minutes because they really want outside. And then we'll get started on snapdragons. Yeah, I don't want you getting all dirty, honey. Okay, perfect. Yep, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was thinking. How about we go this way? Yeah, we can go back the other way. All right, perfect. I am starting snapdragons inside today, and I'm also going to go ahead and start a few dahlias as well. I'd be starting these in a few days, and honestly I wasn't sure if I was going to fully plant these or not, but I think I'm going to plant a few and maybe throw them in pots or like in the corner of a garden bed instead of a full strip like I did last year. I am so excited about this year's colorway of flowers I chose. I really took my time in trying to find different varieties that would go well with each other, and I'm really happy with how I'm hoping this year will turn out. So for my Snapdragon this year, I chose one called the Cane's Orange 2-3 F1, and this is so pretty. I have a few different zinnia varieties I think would look beautiful with this. I also found a really pretty Cosmo as well. In previous years, I've had a lot of deeper colors and brighter sunset tones to like all the flowers I was growing, and this year I really wanted to incorporate a lot more pinks and kind of lavender colors and pastels, but still kind of have a very sunsetty vibe, but having it be a little bit more pinky toned. And this looked so pretty with all the different flowers I decided to do. So this is the Snapdragon I'm doing this year. And then I still have Florette's Beige Choice Dahlias from last year. The one thing I liked about these were just all the different ones I was able to get out of them. I did have one favorite one, which was my pink variety that was a little bit more fluffy. So we'll see what I get out of these. Honestly, I think all of them would go pretty well with the same colors that I'm going for this year as well. I just love having all different types of flowers. So I think last year I planted out 12 or 16 Snapdragons, and I really liked that number. I really love Snapdragons. So last year was my very first year growing Snapdragons. I found them really easy, and for me, I believe I planted them a week or 2 weeks out before my last average frost, and I was getting blooms all the way through October. They did stop and they weren't as consistent during like that really peak heat, but they were still putting out like color, and I really loved the different texture they brought to the garden. So I am forever growing Snapdragons. I really love them. So I'm going to do some soil blocks. When I do soil blocking, I like to have a regular 10-20 tray like this, and then I like to have a mesh tray over top of that, and that allows the soil blocks to sit really nicely on the tops. Remember Snapdragon seeds being very tiny, so tiny. With the Snapdragons especially, you're not putting soil over the seed. It is very handy to have a humidity dome to help in the germination process. The more variety of flowers you have, I think it just brings even more visual interest. I obviously grow a lot of my backyard for food production, but over the years I have fallen in love with adding just new flower varieties every year. I think it adds so much fun and uniqueness to the garden, and it's honestly just one of my favorite things. Feels so good to be planting a variety of things today in this seed starting room and the garden. Starting to feel like a gardener again after definitely not feeling like one for a few months there. All right, I'm gonna give these a cover. All right, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this afternoon while I got various gardening things done. We're going to have a lot more days like this coming up in March, and I'm so excited to share them with you guys. If you guys are interested, I'll tag a few more videos here you might be interested in, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye.